Welcome to the I Hate Critics movie review podcast. I'm professional film critic Sean Patrick. With me is Jeff.
Hey, motherfuckers. Oh my God, are we explicit now?
I think we've been unmonetized on YouTube for years. So, yeah, we've been unmonetized in general for years. Who are we kidding?
Oh, this is true. We just do it because
That's
we love you
why you
guys.
should support our Patreon, guys. We have
Yes.
a Patreon. You can go there and pledge and help us do fun things if you'd like. But again, your money is more important elsewhere. We completely understand that.
I am going to interject about Patreon. If you do support our Patreon, please do it through the website. Don't do it through the Apple app. I got an email today from my own personal Patreon that when you go through the Apple app, they take 30%. So,
Jeez.
yeah, that's a new thing that they're like, oh, yeah, by the way, we're going to take 30% of everything you get now. So, which is, I have one patron.
I've never used the app. I only use the website. So
Yeah, just go to patreon.com and search for us. So,
that is what you do. Let's talk about some movie news to get started here. Have you been following what's been happening with the Warner Brothers DVDs?
oh, I have not.
So apparently, there is a list going around, the master list of rotted Warner home video DVDs, because apparently something went wrong in the production of Warner Brothers DVDs at a particular point in time, sometime between 2006 or 2004 and 2006. So if you bought something between 2004 and 2006 from the Warner collection, your DVD may be rotting in your home right now
Oh,
and thus
awesome.
useless. Someone was kind enough to put together a list of the affected titles, which there are some pretty important ones, and some of these you kind of make sense that they made them at this plant that wasn't I guess looked into very well. But there are big titles like Blade Runner's 4-disc collector's edition sold between that time period, maybe rotting. The 2001 Space Odyssey Stanley Kubrick Directors Series is on this list, as is the A Clockwork Orange Stanley Kubrick Directors Series DVD. There's some ones on here, and here's the thing: even more bad news on this front is some of these movies that are on this list, you may not be able to replace. Now, Warner Brothers, to their credit, to a point, because again, this is their fault. But they are, if you have one of these DVDs that is rotting, they will replace it. They promise they will replace your DVD unless the movie has gone out of print. And thus, if these movies on this list are out of print and you happen to have one, they cannot replace that, but they will give you a DVD of equal value. But that's not going to do you any good. If you say wanted to have this particular movie, they will not pull it out of the vault for you. And I don't understand why. I mean, I honestly do. I don't understand why that would be a thing. You own the movie, Warner Brothers, so you can just why can't you make a new one? I
And there is
understand
such
there's
a
an
thing as the
expense to
Warner
it, but like,
Archive.
right. There's such it's an expense. I get it, but like, come on. What are you doing here? Why are you having movies that you don't sell? I've never understood out of print to begin with. That's never
Yeah.
made any sense to me. Like, if it's 2025, why can't I just tell you this is the movie that I would like, and then you create it and sell it to me in some
What?
form or fashion?
And I thought Warner Archive did that. Is it Warner that does that? I thought
I have no
you could
idea.
order. I thought there were some you could order. Like, I think for a while before Shout Factory got a hold of like the Incredible Shrinking Woman, you could just order it. I don't know. Weird.
Yeah, there's it's, and so this is a big thing. Like right now, you and I are both big DVD people. We have large collections of DVDs, and I know for a fact I was buying a lot of DVDs between 2004, 2006, even down to 2008. I think is where this thing goes. It's a pretty wide period of time. But I've not found any particular titles to go check and see if they're rotting. currently in my house. They might be though.
Yeah, I'll have to look at the list and see because I'm sure I probably have a couple of them, but
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, unrated, could be rotting
uh,
in your house right now.
I
The
know I don't have
Shawshank Redemption Special
that.
Edition, Twilight Zone the movie, Joan Crawford's Torch Song Volume 2. Also, weirdly, the one that kind of struck out to me on this list that was just kind of weird, that I'm sure there are actually a lot of people who have. They also it also applies not just to movies but to TV collections that they have. And if you happen to have Friends, this is very specific. Friends season 3, disc 1, and season 6, discs 1, 3, and 4. Those may be rotting in your house right now.
Lord.
Yeah, which
Yeah, this
that's
is
like a lot of people did buy that at the time, and people still buy it. I mean, you get that's like Friends collections are like one of the most popular collections to buy at like library book sales.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
it's
so
not
that's
one
fun.
thing.
That's a fun little thing to have happen. There are DVDs rotting in your home currently.
And see,
So
this is
even our
why
physical media is going away.
this is why I always buy physical media and I buy Blu-ray, but I don't always upgrade to 4K.
Yeah. Well,
I don't
Blu-ray
have
is
a
not that.
4K player. Yeah. I don't have a 4K player. I do occasionally, if there's a movie that I want on that I want just to own it because they can always go away, is going to garage sales or something and picking up stuff. But I don't know. I have to look at the list and see.
Weird tangent, but I've been collecting the Best Picture winners on Blu-ray
Yeah.
from the first winner to whatever. And just as a weird sort of, I don't know, sign of the times for some reason, they've sent me 2 copies of Gone with the Wind. Is that supposed to be a message of some kind? Are they trying to tell me something? I only ordered 1. They sent me 2. Why is that?
Because they want you to watch it in a row, so it's 6 hours.
Hmm. Anyway, let's talk. Let's talk about movies, shall we? We've got one big new movie this week and a couple of smaller new movies, and of course, the big new movie of the week is Bong Joon Ho. His new movie with Robert Pattinson called Mickey 17. It tells the story of a guy named Mickey who accepts a position on a space expedition. It's one of the lowest positions available, called an expendable. And what an expendable does is die over and over and over again. His body and mind repeatedly reprinted in seemingly forever, so as he can be used to determine how human beings are tolerating this future. He's used to create, vaccines and test viruses and test the environment and go out and perform unsafe missions. And he dies a bunch of times. The most recent being Mickey 17, who somehow survives a situation that he was certain he was going to die in. And when he gets back to the expedition, he finds they thought he was dead. So they printed out Mickey 18. And so now there are 2 of him, creating an existential crisis for the entire place. Mark Ruffalo is the former failed senator at the head of this, alongside his wife, played by Toni Collette. And Naomie Ackie plays a woman who's fallen in love with Mickey, every different version of him. This movie is terrific. I absolutely loved this weird sort of romantic sci-fi that's happening here with Pattinson delivering a performance that is just unlike any lead actor performance you're ever going to see. He's kind of timid and a little weird, a little off, but he really does make it work. He's just so sweet as Mickey 17, and then he gets to play a little bit something different as Mickey 18, is kind of a psychotic edge to him, which is kind of fun. Naomie Ackie is having the best time of her life. She's just delighted from beginning to end with all of this. And when she has 2 of them, oh boy, uh,
Yeah.
she's really excited. Bong Joon Ho, you just don't know where his movies are going to go. He sets up these very unique premises and just takes them to places that you just never can predict. And that's what makes him such an exciting filmmaker.
Yeah, I watched this last night, and it was like a Terry Gilliam movie. That's what kept going through my head. I was like, this is like a Terry Gilliam, like, just got really excited and threw up all over the screen, and Bong Joon Ho just kind of picked up the pieces of that Terry Gilliam film vomit and put it together, and just I was kept going, what is going on? Everybody is so over the top, and yeah, I mean, it's like it's the future, so everybody, is all decadent, and we can do shit like this, and it's just it's so much that a couple times I was like, wait a minute, I gotta realign myself. I had to do that a couple times during, because I'm like, there's so much that's happening.
What I love though is that his trademark for me and it's kind of, it's not obvious, but it's there. It's his trademark is this empathy, and it's this empathy for the people at the bottom. It's empathy for people who are, at the lowest end of the economic ladder. When you're talking about this, or when you talk about like the I can't remember I can never remember the name of the train movie with Chris Evans.
Snowpiercer.
Always a Snowpiercer. And even in Parasite, where again the people at the lower end of the economic ladder there are not good people, but he still has a great deal of empathy for them. That empathy is really just what drives so much of what he does. He's also just great at just kind of comically, poking fun at the rot at the very top, with Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette. Like, he's a failed senator who's failed multiple times to get reelected, and now he's just leaving the planet. And he's part Trump and part Bill Clinton, and I thought that was great. Um, the worst caricatures of Bill and Hillary are there in Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette, and I like that because I think Bill Clinton is shit. I, I do. I'm sorry. I know I'm supposed to be Mr. Left Wing Liberal, and I am, but fuck Bill Clinton. Fuck him so hard. He screwed up everything. He's a fucking asshole. Take his wife too. But no, where I came from on this in terms of comparisons, I like your Terry Gilliam is spot on, but I also saw a little bit of there's a little bit of Woody Allen's sort of 70s stuff, like Bananas or Sleeper, where there's just this, because everything is so absurd. But absurd, but easy to understand, easy to follow, the bizarre logic that is being laid out before you.
Yeah, exactly. I just, every performance could be in its own movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just however, each character that, like Toni Collette's character could be in her own movie. And it's almost like they took all these different movies and they put them together and they just somehow work. Like Robert Pattinson is definitely playing the same character, but he's playing two different characters at the same time. It's hard to explain, when you say it like that, but just the person that I kept gravitating towards though was Naomie Ackie, because she was the object of affection and lust, and she really kind of played that a little more than I would expect from a movie like this. So
yeah, they gave her so much opportunity to shade in that character, and I really, and she just seems to be so excited to do everything that she does in this movie. It just made me so happy to watch her. Just I'm gonna try this now. Now I'm gonna try this.
Yeah, she's
so fun and so exciting to watch. Between this and Blink Twice, I'm just so falling in love with her.
I first noticed her in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, and then she was Whitney Houston, which I thought Naomie Ackie as Whitney Houston, because Whitney, had a very certain look, and Naomie Ackie has a very opposite look, but it worked. She was so good that you forgot it was Naomie Ackie. You know what I mean? Um, she is really, really good in everything I've seen her in.
Yeah, she doesn't miss at this point. She's just nailing one performance after another. I also love the philosophical underpinning of this movie, which is the idea that does life mean more because you die, or does it mean less if you never die? Like dude, that question that like it's not an answerable question. It's everybody has to answer that question for yourself. Does your life matter more to you because you know it's going to end? Or does it, or is everything meaningless because death is going to happen?
Yeah, that's
Fun. But, hey, come on, Jeff, have fun.
well. Um, one of the things that I like when I think about stuff like that is okay. So they print him out at the age that he is now. That when he signed up for this,
Mhm.
um, what if Mickey 18 lives another 10 years? Do they print him out at that age, or do they print him out again at 27 or 32 or whatever age he is? And then because of the fact that Mickey 18 would have, 10 years more life experience, does that then, if they print him out at 27, does it reset to 20? That's, yeah, I stuff like this and time travel, I try to not think about too much, just go with it.
Oh no, it's not a logical flaw in the movie. No, I'm not
Yeah.
saying there's a logical flaw in the movie. I'm saying that's just simply a
No, yeah,
philosophical
yeah.
question that this movie is asking us as an audience to confront.
I guess that's what I was saying is like, would I rather, like, if they reprinted me at the age I am now, and that, would I want to live another 10 years and realize that I had that much more knowledge? Um, and then I get wiped out and they print me at the age I am now again. Would I want to keep, because you're kind of almost immortal at that point.
I mean, if
Do you,
according to quantum physics, we're all immortal, but
well, I don't understand it. Not this hard. Um, it's just, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, is it moral? Is it immoral? I don't know. It's too hard to think about
I'm
stuff like that.
my thing is that because the movie made me think of this is that I do believe that life is more valuable because it ends. It means more because
Yeah.
you will die one day and you won't be here and you won't have a life to live. And so you have to do more while you're alive because after that it really doesn't matter. And that really is just I find that thought comforting. I don't know why everybody else finds that to be so many other people find that to be sad. I find that to be amazing. It just makes me want to live every single day.
Huh. Yeah, wait till you're my age and you try and get out of bed. God
4 years
damn it.
younger than you.
I know. Oh, trust me, that's a hard 4 years.
Yeah,
Oh,
this movie made me think about that. It makes me think about a lot of different things. I found this movie to be exciting. It's got some the great sci-fi sets. The direction is impeccable, and every performance is spot on.
yeah, agreed.
I there's a lot of people calling this his least movie, like the movie that just it's not his best. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This movie's incredible. Go see it again. You didn't watch it right.
Okay, gatekeeper. I mean, I
There
Parasite
are some movies
is,
you got to see more.
yeah, Parasite so far is my favorite of his movies that I've seen.
Yeah,
I do not plan on seeing this more than once for a while. Um, so maybe I'll reassess. But I haven't seen Parasite in 5 years, so
I
who
mean, if you're
knows?
gonna have a least movie, this is certainly would be like this is a
Right,
lot of directors' best movies right here. Like a lot of
right. Is
directors will never get this good. You're calling this his floor. I understand that you understand where you've set the bar. Is all I'm saying, because
Exactly.
this movie's terrific.
Well, and I mean, there are certain directors that even their basement is on the 15th floor, compared to other people.
Right.
Um, like I was listening to the You Must Remember This podcast about Billy Wilder,
Hmm.
and even his worst movies, the stuff that he made late in his career, are still better than a lot of the shit that's coming out and has come out. So
Yeah,
I don't know,
very true.
and I think that's the same with Bong Joon Ho. I think,
People say Beau is Afraid is Ari Aster's worst movie, and I think Beau is Afraid's fucking amazing. So if
yeah,
you got to put one last. I get it. I get it. I guess probably Beau is Afraid would go last, but Beau is Afraid is also a masterpiece. So
yeah,
There are
yeah,
different floors for everyone. This is not a bad movie just because Bong Joon Ho has made so many good movies.
yeah. So
Sometimes
I just,
sometimes people in my profession, they tend to reach for things to say, and I think a lot of critics are reaching for things to say to take something away from this movie. And uh you know maybe stop reaching, maybe just enjoy this one because it's that good.
people just, people, if something is not for you, just say that. Oh, you know what? I'm sure people like it. It's not for me, but yeah, sure. Instead of this, oh my God, it was terrible, so horrible. No, it wasn't. Shut up.
That's a ludicrous opinion, but there's no wrong opinions. There are no wrong opinions when it comes to movies. Everybody has their own take, and there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to enjoy a movie.
I want to disagree with that because somebody this weekend told me they did not like Midsommar, and I killed them.
I love Mids. Oh my god, I love that movie so much.
And that's the thing. People who are listening now, you and I love that movie, and I really wanted to see it with you and me and Bob, but
Mhm.
the only night we could record was the night that it was playing in the cinemas here.
Yeah,
So people really need to understand how fucking much we love them, that we are putting the show out for them, that we skipped that. So
yeah.
if you don't believe that, you can eat my ass
Maybe for the
respectfully.
maybe for the 666 episode, which is apparently coming up on our feed, we've apparently got episode 666 coming up. Me and you should just get together at your place and just watch all of Ari Aster's movies and then do a podcast and see how we do.
We're gonna have to pick a night when I don't have to work the next morning at 3 a.m.
That might be fun. That might be a fun podcast. Like immediately after, or try and record after watching three Ari Aster.
Let's watch Beau is Afraid first, because that's his least. We can finish it off with the best.
So go see Mickey 17. It's incredible. And Bong Joon Ho just does not miss. You saw Rule Breakers. Tell us about Rule Breakers.
I did. Rule Breakers is the story of the Afghanistan women's robotics team that almost wasn't. Um, as a lot of people know that in Afghanistan it is incredibly uh, illegal now for women to get an education past the 6th grade because of the Taliban. This tells the story, though, of when you could still do that. um, a woman, she decides that she loves computers and she wants to teach people, and she wants to change for the better how women are perceived in education in Afghanistan. Now, this does take place in 2017, most of it, when we still did have Americans in Afghanistan, so it was somewhat not as dystopian as it is here. There, wait, I mean, you know what I mean. Um,
Yeah.
uh, this was before the Taliban came back into um, power, but it was still very repressive for women to get an education. And she decides that she is going to uh, get these girls, who are some of the smartest people she's ever met, into the robotics championship. And she has 5 weeks to do it. And she does. But that's not where it ends. That's where their story kind of begins. So, these four girls in uh, headscarves are heroes, national heroes for a lot of people, not the Taliban, because they freak out. Their fathers and their uncles and the heads of their households are not necessarily happy with it, except for Ahmed, who is I think Tara is her name, her father, who they decide that they're going to use his garage where he fixes motorcycles and cars. Along the way, they meet a lot of different people. They do have a few setbacks. There are a few race against the clock kind of moments, as with any sports movie, and that's what they're kind of playing this as a sport. It has a fun cameo from Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who I'll watch in anything. Nikohl Boosheri plays Roya Mahbub. She is the leader. And if I've got one big criticism about the movie, is that she's like Panaka in Star Wars Episode 1. Every line out of that man's mouth in that movie is negative. We can't do it. It's too dangerous, all that. And she does a lot of Panakaing in the middle of the movie. To the point where, like, can we not do this like we do it in every single underdog movie? We just, not do that part. But her brother does talk her out of that a lot. You're their leader. And the biggest surprise for me is, because I went into this thinking it was something different. I went into more of it being, we're going to educate these women under Taliban rule or something like that. But it wasn't. It was a little more hopeful than that. But it's. I mean, we're staring down the barrel of that gun here in the next year or so. So, this movie might give you a little bit of hope. This is produced by Angel Studios, which is what when I walked in, the credits were still playing. I think I said last week or the week before, I have been trying to go in just as the movie is going to start, because I don't want to be spoiled by trailers or anything like that. And I walked in, the last two trailers were playing, and I was like, one of them was Charles Dickens telling the story of Jesus in animated form.
Oh boy.
Which was kind of funny, because it's like, oh, he's gonna walk on water, and you see it in cartoon form, and it's like, oh my god, I want South Park to redo this movie so badly. But it has a lot of like really good voice actors in it, so I'm like, okay, who knows? And then there was a Neil McDonough movie called The Last Rodeo, and I saw that was by Angel Pictures, and I was like, wait a minute, this isn't like some sort of Christian savior movie, is it? And it was not.
That's good.
There was no mention of Jesus until there's a mechanic named Jesus, and they make a joke out of that. But surprisingly well received in the theater. It was packed.
Good.
I think what I saw it this afternoon, and it's Tuesday, which is discount Tuesday at Cinemark. And I think when we talked about A Complete Unknown, I talked about how there seems to be a group of people that take a bus to the movies every Tuesday, older people. And this was similar to that. I had my row to myself, but all the rows behind me there were probably about 30 people there. So I'm assuming that this was the movie that they picked for their Tuesday sojourn to the cinema. Um, and I surprisingly in this area, everybody was like, yeah, and laughing when with the in the right spots. And one lady walked out. I don't know what that if maybe she just went to the bathroom and I missed her coming back, but I did. There's a character who is unalived
Mm.
in the movie, and I heard oh my god, and I didn't know if that was an oh my god, I can't believe that happened, or oh my god, do we have to do that, or so.
Yeah.
Based on a true story, I have not had a chance today to look into how much of it was a true story and how much of it wasn't. It surprisingly moving in spots. I was surprisingly really, really pulling for these girls and this woman, even her brother. Uh, I just was like, oh, what's wrong with me? This is wholesome and I like it. Nobody says
Had to go
fuck
home and
shit,
take a
hell, or
shower
damn.
after that.
I know. I was like, oh my God, am I old? Am I softening in my old age? What is going on? Um, yeah, I mean, it was decent. I don't know if I would have seen it in the theater if it wasn't for the show.
Mhm.
It might be something that, I might catch on streaming if I heard good things about it. Um, but I mean, it's like a Wisconsin movie in that the level of cheese is pretty high in points, but overall it was not bad.
That's good to hear. Meanwhile, I'm over here watching the dark and gritty horror movie.
Well, had I known that was out, I would have watched it. I thought it was coming out next week. So,
The Rule of Jenny Penn, starring two incredible actors, Jeffrey Rush and John Lithgow, tells the story of a judge played by Jeffrey Rush who ends up having a stroke and goes into a senior care facility. This facility is pretty normal, except for this one guy played by John Lithgow, who seems to kind of bully everyone there, and somehow he seems to have been there forever. He's on all the photos of the past. You see, he's just all over the place. He's always been at this place and he's always run it. And he's always carrying around this little baby doll on his arm that he calls Jenny Penn. And Jenny Penn, he uses to do horrible things to people. But the judge, he refuses to go along with this. And he's kind of making everybody's life kind of miserable himself because he won't simply back down to what John Lithgow's character is doing. And this sets up kind of a showdown between the two of them. Who's going to win? Who's going to lose? Who's going to be taking charge? Who's going to try and get things back to normal? It's really it's really kind of exciting to watch. John Lithgow is completely unpredictable and strange and delivering just quite an incredible performance. And then Jeffrey Rush, when you think that this character might take an easy way out, when he's offered a chance to try and maybe protect others by doing something he doesn't want to do, you don't quite know what this guy's going to do, and that really makes it exciting. He's he's really just he himself is also kind of unpredictable in that way. He's not a bad person, but he's certainly a person who's going to look out for number one ahead of everything else, and that again creates a good deal of tension and suspense. The direction is incredibly smart. The cinematography, especially in several different scenes, the use of the camera is so good in such a subtle and well produced way. It really underlines a scene without interrupting it, and I really like that, especially from a director who I believe this is his debut feature. So, yeah, this
oh,
one's really good.
oh, good to know. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one actually. I did see the trailer for that, and it looks like it's really good. So,
If you're somebody who I put this in my review, and I want to put this out there to anybody who hasn't read the review, and that is that if you're somebody who has an issue with mouth noises while eating, this is not a movie for you. It's the substance level of like, if
uh,
mouth noises bother you, this movie is definitely going to bother you. A lot of old people eating. There is a lot of old people eating, licking, and everything in this movie. And if that's a problem for you, I completely understand it. I get it. I suffered through that with the substance, so I understand.
So you just I'm taking my niece to it.
Yeah.
She hates that. I Last Sunday I went and had dinner after the show at my sister's house, and something came up. She said something about somebody smacking while they were eating, and naturally my sister and I, sitting on either side of her, had to start slurping and snapping and with our chicken, and it grossed her out so badly she almost had to leave the table. It was really funny.
That was really funny to you.
Oh, it was so funny because it was one of those things where we're like, oh, I get to get you for this now. First you told me you didn't like dolls, then you told me you didn't like clowns. Now you don't like smacking your lips.
Do not take them to this movie. Don't do that. That's just cruel. This has got a doll and lip smacking noises throughout. 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. Again, sometimes I just don't know what some of my fellow critics are watching. Not that everybody has to like it, but like, come on. Really?
Yeah.
Just the idea of just watching Jeffrey Rush and John Lithgow go back and forth is kind of great for me, but okay. Yeah, some movies you just feel like somebody has to actively go out of their way to dislike.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
All right, so it's not coming here this weekend. I know that because there's going to be 4 movies.
Well,
we'll get to that in a little bit.
It's going to be on Shudder, I think.
I believe so. I believe it could already be. I believe because my review is already out. They told me to go ahead and publish. So I'm under the impression the movie is available already.
I may have to resubscribe to Shudder.
So let's see here. Let's get to our classic this week, which is just simply based on the fact that a local theater was showing Rear Window, which is one of Jeff's favorite movies and one of my favorite movies. And any chance we get a chance to talk about Alfred Hitchcock in a classic, we got to do it. Rear Window, of course, is all about James Stewart. He's in a wheelchair. He's a photographer. He's just watching his neighbors, watching everything in their lives and the various different, almost like his very own bank of televisions, like some crazy person in a modern movie.
Well, we should say he is housebound. He can't leave because he's broken his leg. So
can't go anywhere.
So that's he's not a pervert like me.
It is reminiscent. Well, I think there's an element of perversion to this. Let's not.
No. Yeah, there definitely is that.
The only reason people don't call this guy a pervert is because he's James Stewart. That's it. Because otherwise, I think his comments on Miss Torso alone would certify the pervertude of this. But he's bored. He wants to get out of this cast. He wants to get back to work and go around the world taking pictures. And is his bored mind creating a murder mystery? He thinks that perhaps his neighbor across the way has killed his wife, and he's got reasons to believe this. But there are reasons to think that perhaps maybe he's kind of trying to invent something here, especially when you consider it from the perspective of Doyle, the detective, who raises a lot of good points. Like, first of all, you have no actual evidence. You've got no actionable evidence that a detective could go on. That's for sure. And he's basically just going on hunches until a certain point. This movie is so incredibly well constructed. Hitchcock's just genius is showing you exactly what he needs to show you, and never more than that. It's just incredibly well measured that way. He's got an incredible way of using sound to take you one direction while you're supposed to be going another direction. And of course, you've got James Stewart at the center of this, who's just today I think it would probably be Tom Hanks, who's like that actor that just everyone trusts immediately. He was that guy. He was that guy for years. He still is that guy. When you watch James Stewart in a movie, you trust him. You believe him. You're going to go with what he says. And these times when he's in these sort of dark situations where his sanity may be in question, even still, you're on his side because he's James Stewart, and he's just so actively believable.
Well, he's Mr. Smith. He's like he is the ideologue. He's George Bailey. He's the man who knew too much. He's like every stereotypical stand-up guy, and that's what Tom Hanks is now, except well, not so much after watching here, um but yeah, I this has always been one of my favorite movies, my favorite Hitchcock movies for sure. Um just because it's so simple. It's just a simple story. Um you're kind of in one room, even though you're not necessarily you're watching from one room. Um and Hitchcock with just like a tiny portion of the screen imbues everybody that he's watching with such a distinct character and makes their storylines just as important as Stewart's. Like Miss Lonely Hearts and uh, our villain of the piece, and everybody has their own storyline that you're invested in just on the basis of the way that they're directed, and they're always doing something when he's watching them. It's not, like they're he's always watching the whole back of the building. So there's always something going on the screen somewhere, even if it's not what we're supposed to be focused on.
Mhm.
And that's one of my favorite parts about it is, that the fact that everybody has their own personality that comes through just the way they walk around the screen.
Yeah, it's funny to look at this movie from a very modern perspective and think about how James Stewart is very much a main character, and everybody who watches is his NPC that he's just watching them carry out their day.
Uh-huh.
But they have their own lives, and Hitchcock is underlining that, and he's kind of Stewart's character is kind of treating this like a TV show every
Yeah.
day, cataloging their stories in his mind because he's got nothing better to do, and giving them backstories that they may not have, and all the while Hitchcock is subtly layering in how the various people in this place do kind of underline who he is as a person, because of course he's got his relationship with Lisa that he's trying to get out of or trying to subvert for whatever reason, even because she's too perfect. And but everything, when you look around, like you've got even the couple who's sleeping outside on their terrace or whatever, the fire escape, or the newlywed couple who have their own very small arc that ends almost like on a cliffhanger with the like,
Yeah.
we're not going to stay together. All of these people, though, Miss Lonely Hearts, they all have kind of a reflection of a piece of him, without it being so in your face. Like, obviously these things are aspects of his various different anxieties, and that's a tough needle to thread without over egging the pudding, and real making everybody see, look how this it reveals his character, like Mike Figgis in Crash is a great example of doing nuts, completely unsubtle bullshit just throughout. Whereas Hitchcock is very, very specific about the very things that these characters reflect within Jeff. Wait, is that why you like the main character? They call him Jeff?
No, no. I One of the things that I liked about this is, I'm talking about each person has their own um, personality, except Grace Kelly. She's just the woman who loves Jeff, and that's kind of her arc through the first three-quarters of the movie, and then she's just like, "Look, I'm going to do this." So then you realize that, oh, okay, she's not. She's probably more of a character than he is, and he's the main character. She goes off and she's gonna find out what's going on, and because he can't, she's gonna go on her own, and she does, and it almost leads to tragedy.
It's funny in a weird way, in a much more wholesome way. This is somewhat reminiscent of those guys who, like, well, I can't have sex with my wife because she's my wife. We're only supposed to have sex for procreation. She's too perfect. So I've got
Yeah.
to go elsewhere and find sex. I can't be with this woman. And it's like John Leguizamo's character in Summer of Sam. She's too
Yeah.
perfect. I can't do anything with her. I've got to go somewhere else. That's almost like what's happening here. Is like he's got to like find the perversion in her that matches his perversion. And once she can prove herself that she's as much of a pervert as he is, then he can maybe marry her.
Do you want to know my favorite piece of trivia in this movie? Do you know who plays the composer?
No.
It's Ross Bagdasarian, who created Alvin and the Chipmunks. So he's an actual, really was a songwriter composer who he wrote songs like "Come On to My House" and the Chipmunk song, and so yeah, he was an actual real life songwriter, and they have him writing stuff for the movie. So,
Interesting.
and noted homosexual Raymond Burr plays the killer. So,
Well, no wonder he killed his wife.
right?
He's not running off with some woman. He's found a man to run off with. Those long distance calls.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and he has such a menace to him, even when he's just walking around his apartment. Because you're like, okay, is Jimmy Stewart crazy, or is he onto something? And you just don't, since you don't know, you really can't even tell until the last 4 minutes of the movie when he actually does come over to settle things up with Jeffries. So
Yeah, like it's really just incredibly clever in that way because he lets you have that sliver of doubt, especially coming from Doyle, throughout that really just keeps you on the edge of your seat. Yeah, it keeps you thinking like, what if Jeff is just sort of inventing this like that could be a movie too where somebody just does that. You could do that in a movie and it would be interesting. Just a
yeah,
character who completely makes this up. It's fun to think of the number of places like people will tell you they've never seen Rear Window, and then you describe the plot to them and they go, "No, I know that." It's because so many, so many other movies and so many TV shows, The Simpsons and Futurama. I mean, just all of them have done a Rear Window parody because it's such a great idea. The idea that somebody has witnessed a murder and no one believes them. It's such a simple idea. And it's such a simple jumping off point for a really terrific thriller.
well, and then the remake Disturbia, everybody, you describe it, they're like, oh no, that's the movie Disturbia. No, this is definitely Disturbia is definitely a remake of Rear Window. Um, do you remember after Christopher Reeve was paralyzed, they remade this movie with him?
Yeah, yeah.
I was like,
Oh,
it hit me a little
very
while ago. I
cool.
was like, oh yeah,
That's a
I
cool
forgot about
idea.
that.
That's a very cool idea because he was the right guy for that. I'm
Yeah,
glad he got to do stuff like that.
exactly.
Yeah, I love this movie. I love where this movie takes me thought wise, and I think there's just so many great aspects of this movie that you can jump off of and have a conversation. Like realistically, like it's a love story in the end. It's like it's about Jeff really kind of learning about himself and trying to figure out why what it is that he actually wants. When he sees the newlywed couple and their happiness and togetherness, and he sees Miss Lonely Hearts and a life possibility where she's just alone and on the brink of like taking her own life because she's so lonely. Then you look across and you see the bad guy Thornburg, and you think and you I can't remember his name now.
Horror.
Thorberg, where he's just so done with marriage that he actually murders his wife. Like, are these the only outcome? Like, these are the only outcomes from marriage, right? Like,
Yes.
but is the outcome of all marriage just misery? Like, is that really? I think that's kind of the question that Hitchcock is secretly kind of asking here. Is like, really, is every relationship doomed?
Yes.
I'm a little bit more hopeful than that. I do hope for I'm 49 years old. I'm still as much of a romantic as I've ever been, and I do believe in true love, and that's why I won't settle for anything less than that. Which I've had the
Oh,
opportunity. I've had opportunities to settle for less than perfect, and I just won't do it. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life with someone that I'm just going to be a roommate to.
oh, you mean it lasts more than a one night stand with you? That's cool.
I'm just saying, like, I know plenty of couples right now who have been together for so long. Like those couples who get to a particular age and start referring to themselves as mom and dad. Like, geez,
Oh.
um, or those couples who start to look like each other. Like, oh God, no, just put me out of my misery now. I'm not going to do that. I want somebody who has their own distinct personality, but we have similar interests and want to do things together. But
You're
yeah,
just
I won't
waiting for
settle
your
for
Grace
anything.
Kelly.
Yeah, exactly. Give me Grace Kelly. I'll take that. She's perfect. I want perfect. I do want to push back and say I think her dialogue created a whole universe of what that character is doing. Like, she appears to be incredibly successful at her job, and she is a model, but she's more than just a model. I mean, from what she talks about, she's got a whole
Yeah.
life going on. She just happens to love this guy,
Who is 21 years older than she is.
which is seemingly way too typical these days.
Oh, no, I'm not throwing shade on it. The guy that I'm talking to is like 18 years younger. Or
Oh
he's
wow,
talking to me.
yeah.
I'm one daddy away from cutting off contact though. Go to therapy.
You feel that?
Stop calling me daddy.
I I cannot stand that. I don't understand. That is so. We've had this conversation on the 95 podcast a bunch of times because we cannot, for some reason, it just keeps coming up where a woman will think it's sexy to call a guy daddy. And it's like,
No,
no, that is not
no,
sexy. I am not your dad. Do
nope. Go to
not.
therapy. Go to therapy.
Yeah.
Stop calling me daddy.
Seek help. And I understand that for some reason, there's a lot of guys who really like that. And those people also need therapy. If you like being called daddy, you need therapy, sir. Because what are you thinking about? What do you think daddy means?
Do you think that we would have even known that Thorwald murdered his wife if Jimmy Stewart had had BetterHelp.com web therapy?
I think if he had a TV, he wouldn't know. I would never. I'd never have a rear window because I'm just watching a movie and like you try. I don't even know the name of any of my neighbors. I couldn't tell.
Oh, I
Let
know
alone their backstory. Forget
the
the
guy
backstory.
across the hall from me and the old lady down the hall. I know them just because I pass their places and end up talking to them a lot, but don't know any of the other people I see going in and out of this place.
Yeah, no, I don't. And you should know your neighbors. You should be. And I'm kind. When I see them, I say hello. But all of us seem to prefer just not going outside of our apartment to have conversations with each other. And I'm fine with that. I'm not going to bother you.
My first apartment in Chicago on Greenview Avenue, I was not only friends with my neighbors, but whenever I would have a party, and I had a lot of parties, they all got invited. There was only one lady who didn't come. Um, and her boyfriend was a drug dealer, so I was kind of glad they didn't come.
Yeah.
But that was 22 years ago now.
Wow.
And I don't think I've lived in a place since that apartment where I really knew my neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't already know them, like there was one
Right.
of my places in Chicago where I did know the neighbor because I got him the apartment. But I couldn't tell you. I would wave hi and bye when I lived in LA with the people, but that was during COVID, so we didn't stop in the small hallway and talk. So
Right. I'm to the point where if somebody knocks on my door, I jump about 3 feet in the air. Like that's how few like visitors I have, let alone neighbors. Like I don't like I'll have visitors, but I know they're coming. They're not gonna not like they're not knocking. Like we've set a time. We're meeting somewhere. Like there's just no popovers, which like and then I thought on TV in the 90s, like we're always gonna have popovers. Like when like in this movie, when Stuart's door is open, unlocked, when
yeah,
Thorberg comes over, I'm like, that just would never happen here. Kramer on Seinfeld, never happened in here.
no.
You're not just gonna leave the door open and have people walk in. But I was curious about something though. You lived in New York. You wouldn't necessarily call yourself a New Yorker, but when you're looking at this New York set in this movie, what is that like for you? Is it how different was that from your New York experience?
So I lived actually okay. I lived in New York City for a week, but my apartment got broken into 3 times in that week, so I moved to Jersey City,
Wow.
which is closer to Midtown than most parts of Brooklyn on the train. Um, like my friends are like, "Oh, let's go to gym bar." I'm like, "All right, I'll see you in about a half an hour." Half an hour? Are you already there? I'm like, "No," but it's that's how long it takes me to get there. They're all like, "Oh, well, I live in Brooklyn. I'm gonna have to, it'll be an hour. I live on Long Island. I won't be there for 3 days." So, but no, from going over to my friends, it was not like that. But this was 1954 and a movie, so I think
Yeah.
it might have it very well could have been a lot different in the 50s. But um, none of my friends know anybody or see anybody because of the way there's no alleys or anything, and I don't know if any of my friends had a courtyard in their building.
Mm.
So
It's kind of fascinating when you think about it. Jeff, the main character, is this incredibly successful photographer, and then you look at his apartment, and his bed is in the living. Like he's got one room essentially, like which I guess
yeah,
his lifestyle, he doesn't really need a big place, but
yeah,
it
because he's
does make
always
me
traveling.
wonder. But like it does make me wonder what the layout of any one of these apartments actually is like and how they were put
Yeah.
together. Because like Miss Lonely Heart seems to have way too much space for one person.
Well, like the Thorwald apartment looks to be 2 rooms, the bedroom and
Yeah.
the living room slash dining room slash kitchen, um, and then a bathroom. So
It seems to like today. I don't think you'd see a building this haphazardly put together.
no, unless it's in downtown Davenport, Iowa.
Like if you walked into one of the apartments in this building that I'm in, they all basically look exactly the same. They're all
Yeah.
the same design, same color scheme. Everything's the same, and uh, it's kind of, maybe like on the opposite end of the building, everything's on the right rather than the left, but it's all the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
fun.
and
It's such an interesting demarcation of time when these types of buildings were able to exist because we've gone in such a different direction of trying to make everything cheaper and more efficient, and to do that we make everything exactly the same.
well, my first apartment in Chicago was in a building where I there were the 3 floors, and I would go up to the third floor to my friend Rachel's apartment, and the only thing that was even remotely like mine was the fact that there was a window in the same spot as
Yeah,
there was, around my apartment. But the bedrooms were different. The living room was smaller. There was a weird door. So I mean, it's the actual um, square footage and everything is the same, but the layout and the way that they've kind of reconfigured stuff was a lot different. So I don't know. I think it has to do with when the buildings were built and all
oh yeah,
that. This
anything
one
before
seems
the
to have just
anything
been,
before the 2000s. 2010 maybe has a little bit of
Sure.
difference to it. But if you're an apartment post 2000 and post 2000, it's pretty much they just build them exactly the same now in
Yeah.
this most boring way possible. All right, Jeff. Next week we've got the big movie is Novocaine with Jack Quaid. We also have Black Bag with Kate Blanchett and Michael Fassbender. We've
And
got
Opeth.
Opus, which is really interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing that one with. It's got John Malkovich as a pop star and Iowa DeBerry going to his remote compound to interview him. I'm fascinated to see what that's going to be like. I really have, and it's an A24 movie, so that again just raises the intrigue ever so much more.
That is my absolute first movie that I'm going to see for next week. I will reluctantly see Novocaine. See, okay, I gotta say this: Novocaine
Mm-hmm.
and Black Bag are movies that like the subject matter does not interest me the way Opus does.
Mm-hmm.
But for the show, I will see them. I'm just like Opus is the one. Like if I miss that, I'm gonna be really really pissed. Um, Luckily, I don't have a show this weekend. Um, so I'll be able to actually probably see all three of them.
All right. Well, before we go, you want to tell people where they can get your art?
Yeah, you can get it at jefflasseter.com. If you go to my Facebook page and my Instagram are Jeff Lasseter Pop Cult, all one word. I am in the midst of trying to get out of the state of Iowa, and I am purging so much artwork right now, like originals. You can get some of my original stuff for $20. Paintings that I had on my website for like $800, I'm selling for 400. So if you see anything, shoot me a message on Facebook or on Instagram or on Blue Sky, and let's wheel and deal.
All right. Thanks,
So
Jeff. I'll talk to you next week.
where aren't you going to tell them where to find your reviews?
Oh, yeah. It's geeks.media, horror.media, and of course on Blue Sky and Facebook, facebook.com, and I Hate Critics.
Yes, come and see us. Say hi, or tell us to go fuck ourselves.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks. See you later.